Welcome to This Explainer. We're jumping right into the wildly contradictory world of Wakdjunkaga, the Winnebago Trickster. It's a trip that's going to take us from ancient oral traditions straight into the messy depths of our own modern minds. Let's get started.
So here's the big mystery we're tackling today. How on earth can one ancient figure be both a revered creator and a complete blundering destroyer? From the Americas to ancient Greece to China, you see tricksters popping up everywhere. Why do our oldest human stories keep orbiting around a chaotic, instinct-driven fool?
To decode this, we're relying on anthropologist Paul Radin's classic study, The Trickster. But this isn't just an anthropologist dusting off old oral traditions. Radin brought in some serious psychological firepower, including insights from the legendary psychoanalyst Carl Jung. We're going to look at this myth through two distinct lenses. First, as a razor-sharp social satire, and second, as a literal map of the human unconscious.
Let's lay the groundwork. Who exactly is Wakdjunkaga? Well, in the Winnebago language, the name literally translates to the tricky one. But here's the crucial thing you need to grasp. He isn't a god in the traditional morally perfect sense, not at all. He's this amoral life spirit, an inchoate being acting entirely on uncontrollable impulses. He doesn't know good, he doesn't know evil, yet somehow he brings both into the world, driven purely by boundless hunger and lust without a single social value.
All right, moving into part one, the ultimate social satire. This perfectly highlights the wild contrast at play. Think about expected Winnebago values: strict war rituals, deep reverence for the tribal war bundle, absolute celibacy before a war party, and then there's the trickster. He acts as a tribal chief who technically shouldn't even be going on the warpath to begin with, summons a feast, ditches his guests to sleep with a woman, and literally stomps his sacred war bundle into the dirt, calling it a nuisance. It is a complete and total inversion of everything held sacred.
So, you've got to ask yourself, why would a culture tell stories that completely trash their own holy of holies? Well, by having him behave this way, the storyteller is essentially handing the people a safe, theatrical pressure valve. Winnebago society came with heavy burdens: rigid hierarchies, intense religious duties, strict puberty fasting. This humor serves as a deliberate, brilliant critique. It lets the community laugh at those incredibly strict social obligations and the heavy authority of the chief.
It's actually a lot like the medieval jester in European courts. Archaic societies are highly structured, right? But to keep that strict order from snapping, you need disorder. The trickster adds that necessary chaos to the order to make a complete whole. He allows society to safely experience the taboo and the ridiculous, all neatly contained within the fixed boundaries of a story.
Now for part two, the mirror of human ambiguity.
Physically, Wakdjunkaga is just a mess. He has no fixed proportions. His intestines are literally wrapped around his body, and he carries his detachable organs in a box on his back. I mean, he is fundamentally an enemy of boundaries. But this literal lack of physical form perfectly symbolizes human ambiguity. It represents a totally unevolved mental state, just the messy, unformed reality of a creature ruled 100% by lust and hunger.
And I've got to share my absolute favorite example of this. In one episode, the trickster kills a buffalo. As he's skinning it, his left arm reaches for the meat, and his right arm threatens the left with a knife. He literally makes his own left and right hands violently fight each other over the carcass until they're cut to ribbons. It's absurd, right? But it's this striking, perfect metaphor for internal human conflict and deep unconsciousness. His body isn't unified because his mind isn't unified.
He doesn't just cross bodily boundaries either. He defies nature entirely. In a really famous episode, he's starving during the winter. His solution? He uses his shape-shifting abilities to transform into a woman, marries a neighboring chief's son, and actually bears children. All of this just to secure a warm lodge and a meal. It brilliantly shows the absolute extremes a being will go to when they're driven strictly by base physical appetites, completely ignoring the bounds of sex and nature.
Let's transition to part three, the shadow archetype. This is where Carl Jung's psychoanalysis really sheds light on things. Jung brilliantly points out that the trickster isn't just a local cultural quirk. He's a universal manifestation of the human unconscious. Jung saw him as a sort of psychological fossil, a faithful copy of a time when the human psyche was completely undifferentiated and honestly barely above the animal level.
Jung equates the trickster with what he calls the shadow. The shadow is that collective, unconscious part of our personality. It holds all those primitive, chaotic, inferior traits that our conscious ego absolutely refuses to integrate. And the trickster? He is the ultimate personification of this shadow archetype. He is literally all the suppressed, foolish impulses that you and I carry around while pretending we have it all perfectly together.
Because he's a creature of the unconscious, he makes the most ridiculous blunders. He's constantly duped by smaller animals. At one point, he gets his head hopelessly stuck inside an elk skull just because he wanted to eat the flies buzzing around inside it. He is a total victim of his own unchecked passions. But through these endless blunders, the myth holds up a mirror to our own early, low intellectual levels. It's almost a therapeutic reminder of how foolish we act when rigid structures fail and we operate without self-awareness. Which brings us to part 4, evolving toward consciousness. Because the trickster doesn't stay a mindless fool forever.
If we map out his journey, it's actually a series of evolving, recurring life lessons. He starts in phase 1 as this amorphous, instinct-driven creature. Then in phase 2, his foolishness catches up with him and he suffers serious physical pain. But that pain teaches him. By phase 3, he's actually performing consciously useful acts, like clearing obstacles out of the Mississippi River to make it safe for humanity. Finally, in phase 4, he eats a final meal and ascends to heaven as a fully differentiated, conscious creator. It is a literal timeline of the human mind evolving from primitive instinct to enlightened awareness.
Paul Radin sums this up with a beautiful insight. He notes that the trickster represents not just the undifferentiated distant past, but the undifferentiated present within every single individual. We keep this ancient myth alive because it actively helps us process our daily internal struggles with our own primitive selves. He's not just a character in an old story. He's alive and kicking inside you right now. Think about how this plays out today. Civilized man still refuses to take responsibility for his own shadow. When we make a foolish, completely inexplicable mistake, what do we say? We blame a jinx, a hoodoo, or we say the universe is just out to get me. We are projecting our inner, unintegrated trickster onto external bad luck, refusing to admit that the shadow is always there, just waiting to slip up. So, I'll leave you with this final provocative thought. The next time everything goes sideways, the next time you behave in a way that completely defies your own logic and you make a ridiculous mistake, how are you going to deal with it? Will you just blame a jinx? Or will you recognize the ancient, chaotic, utterly human trickster staring right back at you in the mirror? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I hope this gave you a cool new way to look at the complexities of the human mind.